Hey, it's Felix here, and I came back from the US last weekend. I was in Florida for 2 weeks. I had a very good time, but a very interesting thing that I paid quite a lot of attention to was how different the American food culture is to Europe. And right now, I understand quite a lot better why the US is so unhealthy, why disease and sickness is just exponentially growing, although Europe is not far behind. And First of all, as I said, Europe is not far behind, and I think that the whole world is really getting sick due to the fact that people are very misinformed on what is a proper and healthy diet. And I think that the whole system is really screwing up everyone. But this is not something that is US specific. I've also myself been eating a diet that I thought was healthy, that the whole society has told me was healthy all my life. All my doctors, everyone has told me that this is the way to eat for health. And this healthy way of eating that has been recommended to me has just been detrimental for my health. And now, after I've done a lot of research on my own, and I've been very skeptic to everything I've learned, and I have had to unlearn quite a lot of things. I have figured out what works for me, but the US is definitely on the forefront of this trend of people getting sick and people getting diseases from food. And there's several reasons for this. And I think one of the biggest reasons is that the US has quite a lot of big and powerful food companies and a lot less regulation when it comes to consumers than the EU, for example. But that's a topic for another video. And I think one of these big reasons why the US is really leading the way here and why very many Americans are unhealthy today and getting sick is processed foods, because you see processed foods everywhere in the US. It's so convenient, it's so cheap, and the companies, they market it very well, especially fast food places. You go into some fast food place and they market it as it would be something healthy for you, that it would be something that you should feed your child with. And I think that is the biggest reason. And I understand that people are getting sick when they're given the wrong information on what's healthy, and then it's so convenient, it's so cheap, it's everywhere. So I 100% understand that it's hard to actually live a healthy life when this is the case. And another very interesting thing which you see in the US but not in Europe are some ingredients. There are quite a bit of different ingredients that are not legal in Europe and anywhere else in the world really, but you see them quite widely in different US products. There are, for example, some artificial food colors like yellow 5-6 and red 40, which are legal in the US but not in Europe. And there has been quite a bit of studies linking these food colors to hyperactivity in children, allergic reactions, and they are very likely to cause cancer as well, like many other things. But they're very widely used in US processed foods like candies and different drinks. Then you also have potassium bromate, which is used mostly in bread making in the US, and it's banned in Europe now because there's been quite a bit of animal studies showing the link of potassium bromate to kidney and thyroid cancer. And another ingredient which I learned about just recently is brominated vegetable oil, which is linked to many neurological impairments and thyroid dysfunction. And this is particularly found in many citrus flavored soft drinks. And I saw this on a Mountain Dew drink that my brother had bought, and I kind of scared him away from drinking it, so he throw that away. And I think this is really the biggest problem when you have all of these different ingredients which pretty much goes under the radar, and people don't know better. People don't know that it's really hurting them, and it might not, there are lots of different ingredients. These are just a few of them. And the point here is that you have these ingredients, and although you might not be very sensitive to them now, you might be young, your body might be working very well. So if this is the case, you might not really feel the effects immediately. You might be just drinking your daily energy drink or consuming your processed bread or whatever, And although you don't see the immediate effects, but it will harm you very much in the long run. As you probably know, the human body can adjust and can tolerate quite a bit of different things. For example, alcohol. You can drink quite a bit of alcohol, some people, for quite a long time, but it will come a day when your liver, your body will stop functioning, and then it's very hard to get back. And by consuming these drinks, these processed foods that you might not think are very bad for you, the only thing you're really getting is a very fast dopamine hit from it. You will get very easily addicted to them. You're just paying for poison for long term, basically. So I think it's very problematic that people really don't know what they're consuming. So then comparing the US diet and the US foods more to Europe. So in Europe, the plant-based push is a lot stronger. And this has both positive and negative sides. I think the positives are that it's better to eat whole foods, like there is a lot more in Europe, than all of this processed garbage. But it's also at the same time sad to go into a supermarket here in Europe and you see that the dairy aisle, that there are 95% of all like cooking fats are margarine or some sort of combination of that, and only 5% is butter, for example, because margarine and all of these seed oils, they are very detrimental for you. I think that the studies are not clear yet. There's basically only correlation between lots of different diseases like Alzheimer's and seed oils, but I think that they are very unnatural for us humans, and they contain quite a bit of oxalates and different very bad chemicals for you, and they're highly processed as well. And I think that yes, Europe is eating a lot more whole foods with less added ingredients like the US. Usually I'm not a big fan of government interfering in the free market and basically putting in regulations, but in the EU, I really think that when it comes to food safety and what you can put in different food products, I think that's a sort of regulation that I think is very good, because otherwise it's very easy for big food manufacturers to just put in a bunch of extra stuff to make you addicted, to make the foods taste so much better. And that is definitely a thing that you see in the US. And for some reason, US companies really like to put in a bunch of added ingredients into their products. And I wonder why, but that is definitely one thing which I like more about the EU. Although EU, still here in Europe, there are a bunch of processed foods which are not good for you, and the recommendations on what you should eat are definitely just totally screwed up. But if you're on a proper human diet and you want to eat carnivore or ketovore, how does Europe and US then compare? And I think that it's very easy to eat healthily in the US. It was very easy to find meat, animal products. I think a good thing in the US is that there are lots of different cuts compared to Europe. And I would say that it's easier to be carnivore in the US because there's a lot more variety. There's a lot more to basically pick and choose from. I think a good thing about the US, for example, on the meat is that you can find ground beef, for example, which has a lot more fat than here in Europe. Because here in Europe, the fattiest ground beef you will find is, for example, 20% of what I've seen. But in the US, you can get up to 27 or even 33% fat in your ground beef, which is unheard of here in Europe. I also think that in the US, they have very good labels on everything. It's very clear what is grass fed, what has the animals been fed, from where are the meats or the eggs coming from. I think the labels are fantastic. And another good thing is that generally it's very cheap. The meat and animal products in the US are very cheap compared to Europe, and it's easy to buy in bulks. And it's of course a lot easier to be carnivore when you can buy like many pounds of meat at the same time and get it for a cheaper price. So I think that being carnivore in the US is actually easier. But if you're not on carnivore and you're not eating a proper human diet in the US, then all the other options, they are pretty much garbage. And I think that it's harder in Europe as well to be carnivore, although I wouldn't say it's hard. It's still, you will still find all the products, but because the push towards plant products is so much higher here in Europe, You don't find as much variety as in the US. But then the meat and animal products that you find here in Europe and especially Finland, they are very high quality because of all the regulation. But these are just my thoughts. Please comment down below which country are you from? How is it being carnivore there? Are there any trends you're noticing? I'm very interested to learn more. And yeah, these are just my thoughts. So eat meat, take care, and have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.